Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Colleen, and today it's cold outside and I'm going to bring you a soup recipe. A delicious lentil soup that doesn't take any time to make. It's probably about a half-hour process in total, and I think that you would find it useful. So I've got the big pot on the stove getting ready, and I've got my ingredients here. I'm going to reach out and gather them all out here in front of us, and I will be right back after this. Now, I think you can see everything that I have out here. Yep. And you can see that it's very few ingredients. I have the lentils back here because I'm going to put them in over there on the stove. I have some spices, a lemon, some chicken stock, broth, and water. And I have a small to medium sized onion, potato, carrot, and 1 rib of celery. And because I'm going to blend this all at the end, I'm not going to be really concerned with the dice on them. I'm just going to get them diced up and get them into the pot. And I have some tomato paste. So I think the first thing I'll start with here is just getting the peel off this potato. And the skin, lots of times it's nice to leave the skin on because there's a lot of fiber in the skin, as well as there being flavor in the skin, but it doesn't necessarily blend up very well. So I'm just going to take it off. I'll give it a quick rinse. I've rinsed the other vegetables already. I'll rinse the carrot at the same time. And this is not a leftover carrot from our garden. We didn't have a very good garden crop of carrots this year. I've already washed that. With those rinsed up, I've also got 1 clove of garlic here. So maybe I'll start with the celery. And I'll just run my knife down and give it a chop. Let's move these things out of the way and be a little more efficient. And while I'm working on the veggies, I want to reach out and say thank you for the kind letters and notes that I get. And if you're interested in sending me a letter, you can find my address at the bottom of the description box where you can send mail to me. I had a wonderful viewer named Dorothy send me this gift of Watkins Pure Ground Cinnamon, and I honestly didn't even know Watkins was still around, but I am really, really excited to get this because Watkins made such a good product, and I'm excited to use it today. I also had a wonderful little Halloween card from one of my longtime and favorite viewers, Darlene. Thank you, Darlene. I appreciate it very much. I'm conjuring up thoughts of you too. And then I had a letter from Janice, and Janice and I and my husband share the same last name, and she gave me a bit of her genealogy. We'd be curious to know whether somehow, back in Italy, they were related somehow. And she lives in New Jersey. So a long way from our roots here in Canada, but it still would be fun to know. I'm just going to dice up this potato. We want everything to cook fairly quickly, and because like who's got time for making a homemade soup for lunch? This is really a quick method of getting a homemade soup for lunch, is to make this soup, and you can do it in no time flat. I'll do it up the carrot. Before before I start the carrot, I'm just going to turn to the stove and turn my burner on to medium. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter in the pot ready to go. Because we're going to saute this stuff a little bit. And just about 5 minutes. And the lentils are full of protein, so we don't have to worry about adding a protein to this. And we've got some great warm spices in it, so it will be full of flavor. I'm using chicken stock in it, but I feel like you could use whatever you had in it. I think veggie stock would be fine. You could probably use a beef stock if you were inclined to do that. And as I said, these don't have to be perfect because we are going to blend this afterwards. So, and if you are interested in sending mail to us in Canada right now, I think that the mail strike may be over. We can never say for sure. It's usually at this time of the year, the last 2 years anyway, that Canada Post has gone on strike, but I understand that they've reached some sort of a workable agreement, and so we'll be able to go back to regular service, which would be really nice. So many of our parcels these days don't arrive by Canada Post anymore. That's how we used to get all our parcels, but a lot of them now are delivered by Purolator or UPS. And so I think that's put quite a strain on the postal service, who used to be, you know, the only way that we received mail. But with the coming along of Amazon, I think that a lot of parcels and letters are now delivered by courier. Okay. I'm going to hold back the garlic just yet, but I'm going to get the rest of these things in the pot and get them on the stove. And then I'm going to bring you to the stove for the rest of this. Well, I hope you can see these are coming down nice, but I don't want them to get too brown. So I'm going to be moving them around. It's getting a nice fond on the bottom. I'm going to add 1 finely minced clove of garlic and keep it moving. And then I'm going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I like to use the tube because then I can just put the whole tube back in the fridge. And we want to get this tomato paste cooked, but we don't want it to burn. So we need to keep it moving, and we need it to be about, you know, a minute to 2 minutes. Although right now I can see the bottom is getting browner than I want it to. So I'm going to stop it, slow it down a little bit just by adding a couple tablespoons of water in there. And now I'm going to start adding my spices to this. So I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of cumin, the same amount of coriander. I'm going to put all these lids on afterwards. Actually I'm going to use about 3/4 of a teaspoon of coriander. I'm going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon each of ginger. Let me stir. Black pepper, about 1/4 of a teaspoon, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to use this new cinnamon that was sent to me by a viewer. Thank you so much. I'm going to give it a good stir. And now I'm going to add two cups of water. And at this point I'm going to scrape for bits on the bottom of the pot. I want to get them all up because that's just good flavor. Hope I haven't got my arm in the way too much so you can see what's going on here. And I feel like the wooden spoon is got most of the bits up. I'm going to turn my stove back to high just to get this all moving. I'm going to add 4 cups of chicken broth. You can do stock or bone broth and whatever you prefer. I use the chicken stock along with water. You could use chicken stock, 6 cups of chicken stock instead, but I prefer it to have the lentils come through and not so much the chicken. So I'm going to add it that way. And then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of red lentils. Now, there are different ways you can buy lentils. You can buy lentils that haven't been seeded yet, which are usually brown, or I think they're green ones as well. But these little red, they call them red, they look more orange, red lentils are out of their husks already. If you see a brown lentil in the store, it has the husk on yet, so you have to cook it quite a bit longer. These only need to cook about 15 to 20 minutes to be ready. So they're perfect for a quick stew or a quick soup like we're making today. And I'm going to add another 1/2 cup. So that's, whoops, I'm going to drop the cup. That's 1.5 cups. Now, you could get away with using only a cup of lentils, but personally, I feel like I want it to be a little thicker, so I'm just adding more lentils to the pot. Now this lentil soup freezes really well, so if you wanted to make it in a big batch and then divvy it out into some containers for freezing, you could do that. It freezes up really well. So that's, if you're cooking for just one person, this is a good way to get some meals put away in the freezer. That doesn't take you very long to do. Okay, I'm going to bring this back to a boil, which I don't think you need to watch. I'm going to bring it to a boil. I'm going to cover it with a lid, and I'm going to let it cook for 15 minutes before I touch it. I'll bring you back after that. It smells delicious in here. And this soup has just been bubbling away for its 15 minutes. And you can see it steaming away. This is what it looks like in the pot. Now, let me see if I can scoop up a bit for you to see. You see it's quite thick. I am going to smooth it out using my hand blender. If you didn't have a hand blender, you could use a food processor or a regular blender, but be super cautious because this is very hot. So either anything that you use, whether it be a stick blender or a hand blender, or a regular blender, use it with caution. Now, I think I've got most of it blended up pretty well. Not that you need to blend it at all. It would be perfectly fine if you served it the way it was. I'm just going to grab a knife. We're going to finish this with a bit of lemon juice, just to bring out the flavors of everything. And I can see that this lemon has oodles of seasoning. So I'm going to ream it over this glass. I need about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which just gives it a little zip. I'm sure you could use bottled juice as well. I just happen to have this lemon that's been lingering around in the fridge for a while that I thought I better use up. And so I think that's plenty. Let's see. There we go. And stir it. Now I'm going to get a spoon, a small spoon, and I'm going to taste it for seasoning, just to be sure it's seasoned properly. Needs salt. And while I'm over here getting the salt, I'm going to push the bread down in the toaster. I had to almost murder the bread. I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt in here. I made a loaf of homemade bread the other day, and we went away for coffee with friends, forgetting about the bread at home on the counter. So not only did it rise, it overrose. And I was just going to punch it down and let it rise again, and then I thought, no, I'm going to give it a go. But so it ended up being such a big loaf that it wouldn't fit in the toaster, so I had to cut off the top and cut off the sides. It was a mess, but the bread is still delicious. Okay, let's try it again. That is perfect. And that lemon at the end really adds to it. So I'm going to scoop us out. Juno's here for lunch with me today. So I'm going to scoop us out some hearty soup with all the protein that's in here. This should keep us full until dinner time. And we're going to add a slice of bread to this. And that's going to be our lunch for today. And it wasn't quite as quick as opening a can of soup, but I also know everything that's in it. And I know that the two of us can have 2 meals out of this one recipe. So that is really helpful. Just going to put this over here. When the bread's ready, I'm going to be going to butter it, slide it onto the plate, and as a last little touch, I'm just going to use a little bit of olive oil to enrich it, and just do a little stream around the top. You can totally leave that off your wake, but it does add a little something, nice flavor to it. Here is my toast. And, whoops, just torn that piece. Poor thing's been through a lot. Oh my gosh, I got crumbs on the butter. Every time I see crumbs on the butter, I think of my grandmother. Used to get so annoyed when we buttered the bread and we left crumbs on the butter. So you'd always have to go back behind yourself and take a little skim of the butter off just to get rid of the crumbs. How do you guys deal with crumbs? Okay, just going to set this aside, put this on the plate, put this on the plate, and we're ready for lunch at our house. So if you haven't already got a great recipe for a lentil soup, consider trying this one out. It's really good, and those warm spices, the cinnamon and the coriander, and the ginger really add a lot of flavor to the soup. The ingredients are simple, and you may have them all in your cupboard at home. And I hope you've enjoyed today's video, folks. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a like, share it on your social media would be a huge help to me. And I look forward to seeing you again soon on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.